Pakistan cricket at its best. 1 minute down, next minute up.
Thanks very much for joining me once again, folks. Saj Sadiq here on behalf of PakPassion. My guest today needs a little introduction, really. He's a well-known face in the world of international cricket coaching and domestic coaching as well. Former Kenya, New Zealand head coach. He's well known for his calm and excellent man management skills around the world with various coaching teams. He's coaching the IPL, Kings 11 Punjab, and RCB roles as well. And these days, he's the reigning champion of the Pakistan Super League as well. Very warm welcome to Mike Hesson. Mike, thanks very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to be here. Looking forward to it.
Mike, we've just seen an interesting T20 World Cup. I think let's start with your nation, New Zealand. Unfortunately for you, New Zealand disappointing at this T20 World Cup. I thought, many people thought that they would be the dark horses. What went wrong?
Well, I guess they've been the dark horses for the last 10 years, haven't they? And fronted up at all the World Cups and performed very well. So there was probably an expectation there. I think those that dug a little bit deeper realised that the team was certainly not suited to those conditions. The conditions in the West Indies, pretty foreign from a New Zealand perspective. And I think as soon as you saw New Zealand had to play Afghanistan, where they had to play them in Guyana, I think there was always a bit of a red flag. Maybe not from the New Zealand public, who probably haven't quite realised yet that Afghanistan are as good as they are, but certainly those that are involved in the world scene. So I guess you have that, and also West Indies at home, who were always going to be strong from a batting point of view. It was just how their bowling would cope, but they were always a dangerous team. So yeah, there was probably some expectation that New Zealand would just fly through that group, but certainly not from, as I said, from those that are in the game, I guess. There was some real trepidation and some real concerns around the lack of preparation that New Zealand had heading into that series. And I think only two of their playing 11 had played a game, an international game in the previous 3 months. So there was a lot of guys sitting on the bench in the IPL, and they turned up and they looked underprepared. And Afghanistan certainly took them down early. And from that point, New Zealand were really going to struggle to get themselves back in it.
There's been quite a bit of criticism from some quarters regarding that preparation that you mentioned for New Zealand. Obviously, they opted to play in the IPL instead of playing against Pakistan. Do you think, I mean, I can understand the financial reasons for that, but were you a little bit surprised that more of the players didn't opt to play against Pakistan?
Yeah, not really. I mean, that's been a long-standing contractual obligation with the Players Association that the IPL window is a block. So, New Zealand cricket had sort of said they won't schedule anything at that time. They obviously did. They scheduled a tour to Pakistan, which was actually probably a really good idea in terms of what's happening next for New Zealand, because there'll be a number of players that played in this T20 World Cup from a New Zealand perspective who will be starting to ease their way out of the team. And Pakistan probably saw the next wave of New Zealand players coming through. And it was a tight series, obviously 3-2 to Pakistan in Pakistan. But there was a few players that stood up and said, hey, if there's an opening, I certainly look forward to getting more opportunities in that black shirt. So, no surprises really, but probably a real surprise the fact that they played no warm-up games. And there was some potential reasons for that in terms of getting people back here and there. But, there was your whole top three hadn't played a game of cricket in 2 months. And that's, and Devon Conway's instance over 3 months. So to think that you're just going to hit the ground running is a little bit, ill-prepared is probably the nicest way I could put it.
You mentioned Afghanistan. I think Afghanistan teams in the past, certainly when they first came into international cricket, they had the talent, but they didn't have much cohesion and sort of team spirit amongst the players. But what a fantastic job Jonathan Trott's doing there.
Yeah, he has. I was lucky enough, I actually coached Jonathan Trott over here in Otago. He's my first overseas player. So he was just a young lad, but fiercely determined, and certainly had some characteristics that you knew would help him when he transitioned into the coaching game. So, yeah, plenty of passion. We saw that throughout the World Cup. A lot of hard work done behind the scenes, and He's one of those guys that, as I said, he's willing to put the work in, so he has expectations on others to do the same. So a really nice role for him, and delighted that he's gone so well. I guess Afghanistan have always had the bowling. We know that their spin bowling's been exceptional. Their depth of spin bowling's never been questioned. They have struggled with a couple of good quicks. They've always had one come and go, but with Naveen al-Haq and Faruqi, they've got two of the best going around, and they can bowl at different phases of the game. Probably the big concern is just that depth of batting. For them to really become a high quality side. I mean, they rely very heavily on the top two, Gurbaz and Ibrahim Zadran, and they did a superb job. But after that, they had a lot of cameo players, a lot of guys that could come in and provide a little bit of substance, but probably more suited to a 20 off 12 or something like that. So I think if Afghanistan can find one or two more middle order players, they will regularly, in all conditions around the world, become a threat.
What did you make of Pakistan's disastrous World Cup, Mike?
Well, you probably prefaced it, haven't you, by the question, I suppose. Look, I guess I was frustrated the fact that obviously put a bit of a plan in place in terms of their opening combination. And, I was a bit frustrated that they changed that, just leading into the World Cup, just because, I think you need that left-right combination at the top. You need someone who's explosive. There's no doubt that, wasn't in great touch, but he's a fine player. And for me, if you're looking to the future, and even if you're looking for now, that left-right hand combination, whether you go with Rizwan or you go with Bubba, is fine at the top, but you have to play an explosive player, and whether he's in form or not, you've actually got to back him, and that's what a plan is. Plan is not, we've got this plan in place, and then he's had a few misses in Ireland and missing the warm-up game. Let's just throw it out the window. That's not a plan to me. That's just an ad hoc sort of approach, and for me, when you got someone special, I certainly would have stuck with that route, and that was probably where everything started. Your whole batting lineup was therefore pretty much same, and pretty much change, which is certainly not what you want heading into a World Cup.
You are the new coach. You walk into a dressing room, and obviously I'm referring to Gary Kirsten here, and it's a divided dressing room. There's factions there. There's people who think that they should be the captain, and there's 3-4 players who think that they should be the captain as well. How do you control and manage that dressing room as a coach?
Well, firstly, I don't think Gary would be surprised. I mean, if Gary did his research, and I know he's a well-researched man, he would work out that players, because of the chopping and changing of the chair and the the leadership of the team, that players have to look after themselves, and that's the model that Pakistan cricket has developed. They've developed a selfish model because players can't turn up and say, hey, we're going to buy into this team plan, this team ethos, because I could be gone tomorrow. If someone new comes in, they'll have a different idea. Unless I score 100 today or look after myself, I could easily get sidetracked. So that just doesn't instill any form of play for the team mentality. So, I don't think Gary will be surprised. How he makes that change will be interesting because, once again, it's really hard for a player to go, yes, Gary, we trust you and we believe you and we'll back you, if they don't know if Gary's going to be there in 6 months' time or 8 months' time or whatever. And based on history, that's a real threat. So, I think Gary's got to try. He's got to try and go, hey, we want players that are really keen to play for Pakistan, really keen to play for the team, and then start to weed out those that potentially aren't looking to do that. So it's tough, but he certainly needs support from behind. There's no doubt about that.
He's an experienced coach like yourself, Mike, and there's all this going on behind the scenes. It must be quite unsettling, though, as a coach, irrespective of the fact that you're saying, you could be here today and then 2, 3 months, 6 months' time, you don't know where you'll be. Obviously, you've got the financial backing from the Pakistan Cricket Board. But as an experienced coach, How do you handle this environment and culture?
Well, I think you've got to do a lot of talking or a lot of listening, to be fair. A little bit of talking, probably more listening. Just getting to know the concerns from the playing group, getting to know, what works, what doesn't, what's been tried in the past, what hasn't. So you're not going in with a preconceived idea, because you have to adjust your style to suit the team, and you have to adjust the style to suit what Pakistan cricket needs. So it's not a plug and play, as I would say, where sometimes you can go into a team and just carry on your style somewhere else. That's just not going to happen in Pakistan. So for me, it's a lot of listening, a lot of talking to people, understanding, as I said, what has been tried before and what has worked and what hasn't. And then you put a line in the sand and you go, hey, this is the way forward. And that might take 6 months, it might take 3 months. But whatever it is, there will become a time where you go, hey, this is my team, and this is the way we're going to do it, and these are the types of players that we want moving forward. So I'm sure Gary will be sort of working through that transition phase at the moment.
You've seen the Pakistani culture. You were very successful with Islamabad United last time around, Mike, at the PSL. With the Pakistani players' mindset, what works as a head coach?
Look, I wouldn't say that I've nailed it. My first year with Islamabad, there's a lot of learnings for me as well in terms of, but I think probably the best thing that I did is listen and try and create an environment that allowed players to actually think about the team and also encourage that type of behaviour. It's actually not about the score that you get, it's about your contribution to winning the game of cricket for your team. And that's really the only thing that I care about. And as long as you're trying to do the right thing, then that's fine. And if we understand that the game of T20 cricket has its ups and downs and form slumps and so forth, I don't really care about those. I more care about the fact that you're trying to do the right thing by the team. And if you do, then you'll be rewarded.
Been accusations against the Pakistani batters, or some of the Pakistani batters, that they are playing for themselves, not for the team. They're looking after their own stats and averages, etc. Do you think that's a fair criticism, Mike?
Well, like I said, do you blame them? The history suggests that those are the players that get rewarded in Pakistan cricket. Those are the players that get adulation. Those are the players that keep getting picked. So if that's what's encouraged, then they'd be silly not to continue to do that. So that's why there needs to be change. I mean, teams around the world have made that shift years ago in terms of, there is no place for players that are stat padding. That's just not the way T20 cricket is played. You can get away with that in Test cricket. Of course you can. In fact, you want that selfish-driven sort of motivation in some respects. But in T20 cricket, you've got a game of cricket to win, and you've got to get a certain amount of runs in a certain amount of time, and often you doing what you do applies a huge amount of pressure to others, and that's the bit that often many people don't see. They see that a lot of those middle order players are getting out cheaply. It's like, well, they're actually having to pick up the slack, and they're actually having to take a far higher risk than they would want to because of what's gone before. And to judge some of the middle order Pakistani players based on pure numbers is, in my thought, completely irresponsible. It's that by the time they enter the game is well advanced, and they often have to do a heck of a lot more than they should.
So the top two, top three should be doing more, in your opinion, Mike, when it comes to putting the opposition bowlers under pressure.
I just think, what is your game plan? I'm not saying they should or they shouldn't, because if their game plan is clear that they want to set the game up for later on, but the game's kind of moved past that, in my view, is that you actually have to stay ahead of the game, and that's your responsibility when you bat in the top three, is to set the game up, and get your team ahead of the game so others coming in can carry on your good work. It's not so the fact that if you get out, you can't win the game. If you set the game up that way, then in my way, you've made a meal of it. You've left too much for others to do. So it is about, and sometimes if you don't have confidence in those below, then you you bat deeper, and because you think you're the only person that can win it. Whereas for me, that needs to be kicked out of the team real quick. In terms of your job is to get the team ahead of the game so others can carry on, rather than others have to come in and play like Superman to win the game.
The PSL is also under the scanner, Mike, and whether it's fit for purpose. You've, as I said before, you've had a very successful first season at the PSL. Is the PSL fit for purpose, Mike? Is it producing the players that can go from the PSL and straight into international cricket?
Oh, as they can with any domestic tournament around the world. The PSL is as good a domestic tournament as you would hope for in Pakistan. So I think those that are saying the PSL is not fit for purpose don't understand team culture, don't understand. It's actually got nothing to do with the PSL. It's to do with the Pakistan Cricket Board and the continuity that they can provide that team. And then it's up to the coach and that environment to create an environment that can play the style of cricket that's required to win games for Pakistan. To go back a step and say that it's the PSL has a responsibility for Pakistan cricket is just outlandish. It's like the PSL are providing players, then it is up to the PCB and the Pakistan cricket team to actually create an environment that allows those players to flourish. The PSL is doing its job in terms of being a provider of talent. And that's all you want from a domestic tournament, in my view.
I guess you're delighted you're not in Gary Kirsten's shoes then, Mike.
Oh, look, not at all. I mean, I think that it's a challenge that I think, if you're able to invest the time there's some exciting opportunities. And I think that from Gary's perspective, that's why he would have taken the job. He would have seen that, hey, there's plenty of scope to make big improvements relatively quickly, but he does need to have buy-in from the board and allow that consistency and that freedom. Having 7 selectors is just unacceptable, in my view. You need to, every country around the world is condensing that in terms of having people that are accountable for performance, being responsible for selection, and to therefore increase that to 7 is outrageous, in my view. How are you ever going to get a level of consistency around selection with that many views at the table and that many people that understand succession planning and so forth? So condense that down, as I said, get some real buy-in around, hey, if I have a plan in place and I want to pick some young players, I want to pick them for a long period of time. I don't want to pick them for 1 series or 3 games or whatever, wait for them to fail and then kick them out. If I've done the research and I pick a young player, I want you to back me to allow them plenty of time to get used to international cricket, and then they'll flourish.
And finally, Mike, India, what did they get right that other teams didn't get right during this recently concluded T20 World Cup?
Oh, look, they're highly skilled. They're very consistent in terms of their selection. They've pretty much had one change. It was either Siraj or Kuldeep, depending on conditions. The role clarity within the lineup was very clear. Even when they got themselves under pressure, they still stuck to their game plan, which was good. And they're, as I said, I guess they're hardened under pressure. So as I said, they don't vary too much from their game plan when pressure arrives, and that's the difference between the good sides and the sides that aren't quite so good.
Just on the topic of India, Mike, Rahul Dravid, I mean, what a fantastic job he's done. He's obviously stepped down from the role now, but, he's left Indian cricket in good hands.
Yeah, look, he has, and a highly respected man. We're lucky to have a few coffees with him or chais over the years, and he's a cracking person. Great values. Believes in team culture, believes in allowing the players to play. He's had his time, and his job now is to allow the current group to have their time and to make sure there's no roadblocks in place to help that. So sets a really good culture up within that team. The players enjoy playing for him because he supports them, and he allows them the little bit of ups and downs that the game entails. So he will be sorely missed, but he's put his heart and soul into it for a few years now and deserves to, ride back into the wilderness and do his own thing for a while. But yeah, I'm delighted for him because he's a quality man.
Well, Mike, I really appreciate your time. Always a pleasure listening to your candid views about the world of cricket, and it's always fascinating to hear the views of a very successful coach. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.